The wedding is about to begin. Nathan sent me a message, Evie is in the hospital, let's postpone the wedding. The makeup artist who was touching me up trembled, leaving a beauty mark on my forehead. I remained unfazed. I called Nathan's arch-rival, the wedding is missing a groom, want to come? Celeste, the board has stabilized. My father, who has always been strict with me, now spoke with a tone of gratitude and reassurance. The live broadcast of the wedding really works better than a press conference. As soon as the broadcast started and it was revealed that it was a marriage between the Xiao family and the Cheng family, all those old guys on the board fell silent. I stared blankly at myself in the makeup mirror. Clearly, I was a bride-to-be, yet there was little joy in my eyes. After all, just a moment before receiving the call, I had gotten a message from Nathan. Evie is hospitalized, let's postpone the wedding. When I saw the message, a sense of desolation filled my heart. Perhaps I had gone through too many previous summaries. When this moment finally happened, there was a sense of relief that it was indeed as expected. My best friend Lena is furious. Change the wedding date? Is Nathan out of his mind? The wedding live stream has already started, and he wants to change the date. While complaining, Lena is so angry that she starts pacing in circles. Look at my blank expression, and then Lena hugs me and starts crying. Celeste, that dog of a man Nathan, he clearly knows what this wedding means to you, what are we going to do? Yeah, what are we going to do? The Cheng group is suffering continuous losses, and several board members are teaming up to replace people. My father, who values sons over daughters, hurriedly throws me into a marriage alliance. Nathan, the young master of the Xiao family who grew up with me, had sworn just the day before that he would always be by my side, but at the critical moment, all I received was a message and no sign of him. Lena's eye makeup was smudged by tears as she rubbed her eyes and asked me, Celeste, can I have my brother come over now to complete the wedding with you? Just say it's a union between our two families. I couldn't help but feel a mix of laughter and tears as I hugged Lena back, saying, your brother has just come of age, don't ruin him. Thank you for being with me, I'll think of another way. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I had never intended to use. Is the condition that was promised before still available? The voice on the other end of the phone was somewhat muffled, sounding a bit gloomy, sure. I bit my lip, it's my wedding today, and the groom has run away. Can you help me out? The voice on the other end suddenly became clear, of course. But I have an additional condition. I quickly calculated in my mind what projects and industries of the Cheng family could be exchanged. After all, this person was the heir of the Cheng family, and his standards were always high. But I heard an unexpected reply, after the wedding, bring your ID and come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Huh? I was momentarily taken aback. The calm voice on the other end of the phone carried a hint of excitement, marry me, I won't enter a sham marriage. My brain crashed for a second. Isn't this member of the Cheng family known for being self-disciplined and avoiding women? How does he know that Nathan and I are only having a wedding without a marriage certificate? I thought again about the vast family fortune of the Cheng family. I will cooperate in signing a prenuptial agreement. Ha ha ha. A hearty laugh came from the other end of the phone, no prenuptial agreement. I was momentarily stunned. Is this young master of the Cheng family really playing such a big game? To provoke his sworn enemy, he wouldn't even sign a prenuptial agreement for marriage. Celeste, who are you going to get a marriage certificate with? After hanging up the phone, Lena stared at me wide-eyed, tears streaming down her face like they were free. I felt both helpless and touched, grabbing Lena's hand. Don't look at me like that, am I the kind of person who would sell myself so casually? Lena and I walked to the balcony, overlooking the wedding banquet that originally belonged to Nathan and me. Friends and family were taking their seats one after another. The live streaming team that was specially invited is diligently filming and explaining every detail of the wedding. I want a lawn wedding witnessed by friends and family. Nathan racked his brains to find the most beautiful lawn in the panoramic city. The wedding dress and suit were chosen by Nathan. The rings were designed and made by Nathan himself. Even every bouquet on the grass was individually decided by Nathan. He, like me, was full of anticipation for this wedding. However, despite his efforts, he chose to give me up at the most important moment. Messages are coming in intermittently on my phone. Nathan's voice sounded somewhat out of place in the room. Celeste, I know you are the most understanding, I will definitely make it up to you later. Celeste, Evie had an accident and can't be without someone, she won't agree to the surgery if I'm not there. Celeste, be a little good, and we will hold the wedding another day. I don't know what Nathan thinks. I repeatedly reminded him yesterday that today's wedding is very important to me. He smiled and kissed me, telling me not to think too much and to just be the most beautiful bride. But how can I be at ease? Evie texted me yesterday, guess what, if something suddenly happens to me on the wedding day, will Nathan choose to marry you or stay with me? I want to know too. I told myself this is the last time, and I want to take a gamble. After all, it's the wedding planning company that has been working with me for half a year, and they act quickly. 15 minutes later, the planning company swiftly changed everything related to the groom. The guests in the venue were in an uproar. Why has the groom suddenly changed? Is there some issue with the marriage alliance between the two families? The head of the live broadcast team approached me cautiously, his eyes betraying his concern. Miss Celeste, should we continue the live stream? Continue. We won't film the part about changing the groom for now. As soon as I finished speaking, my dad called me, and I could hear his frustration even through the phone. You little brat, what the hell are you doing? Did Nathan dump you? Someone from the board said you changed the groom. What kind of ridiculous idea is this? I told you not to go live, but you wouldn't listen. Now everyone knows you've been abandoned by Nathan. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the disappointment in my heart. Dad, the one who broke his promise is Nathan. His voice sounded even angrier. I don't care about all that nonsense, you need to go beg Nathan, even if it means kneeling down, just get him to come back and marry you. Before I could finish, Dad had already hung up the phone. I smiled weakly, it's always like this, always. The head of the live streaming team hesitated for a moment and tentatively spoke up, Miss Celeste, do you need our equipment to malfunction? Huh? This unexpected concern made me feel a bit uncomfortable. Thank you, if I remember correctly, you are also a small startup, right? Aren't you afraid of ruining your team's reputation? The head surprisingly responded with a carefree attitude, after all, we are all small companies, if it comes to it, we can always start over. But Miss Celeste, your wedding, it sounds like it's not going well. I chuckled self-deprecatingly. Yes, even a live streaming company head I barely know is concerned about helping me find a solution. But what about those who claim to love me? Suddenly, there was a commotion on the wedding lawn. I looked at the person who appeared at the end of the lawn, and my eyes felt a little wet. The groom has arrived, you can focus on the live broadcast now. Victor strode onto the lawn. I don't know if it was my illusion, but Victor seemed to be glowing in the sunlight. I am the one marrying Celeste, and both the Cheng and Cheng families hope to receive everyone's sincere blessings. The aura of Prince Victor is truly not to be underestimated. His oppressive gaze swept across the entire venue. The scene quickly fell silent. 20 minutes later, the wedding music began to play. I took a deep breath and slowly walked onto the lawn. The sun was shining brightly, and everything was clear. I stepped forward, my gaze sweeping over those familiar faces. To my surprise, the old man from the Cheng family actually came. I looked up and saw not only the old man but also Victor's father, mother, and sister. Victor's entire family was present. His gaze finally settled on Victor in the center of the lawn. He was dressed in a well-tailored black suit, standing tall, with piercing eyes and a faint smile on his face. I walked up to him and looked into his eyes. His gaze was deep and complex, filled with emotions I couldn't quite understand. Victor was tall, and standing next to him made me feel particularly small and delicate. I blinked and held back the tears in my eyes. Thank you, Victor. Victor squeezed my hand, the honor is mine. When it came time to exchange rings, I was taken aback. This was not the wedding ring Nathan had painstakingly designed before. The ring was simpler and more elegant than the previous one, but the diamond was a size larger. I couldn't help but gasp inwardly. TSK TSK TSK, the Cheng family truly deserves to be called a top-tier family in Jingqing. Even the rings they casually take out are extravagantly luxurious. The ring fit my finger perfectly, surprisingly suitable when I put it on, and I was momentarily stunned. Now, the groom can kiss his bride. I felt a bit dazed. I have always known that Victor is handsome, wealthy, and exceptionally capable. He has always been the kind of child that parents brag about. However, at this moment, that extremely aggressive handsome face was getting closer and closer to me. I found myself feeling a bit uncontrollably flustered. I didn't know whose heartbeat it was, thump 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 thump. Victor seemed to smile and said, "Celeste, close your eyes." In front of everyone, I slowly closed my eyes. Soft lips brushed past, and Victor gently took my hand. "Oh, one more. One more." The cheers and congratulations of the crowd still echoed in my ears. I opened my eyes, and Victor's ears were completely red. He looked at the crowd with a proud smile. "This is my wife, how could I show her to you all?" I felt a bit shy and flustered, not daring to look into Victor's eyes. My mind was filled with just one thought: how can Victor look so strong, yet his lips are so soft? After coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I was still a bit dazed. Just like that, we got our marriage certificate? Back in the car, Victor kept flipping through the 2 marriage certificates, a smile that never left the corner of his mouth. I sat next to Victor, feeling a bit anxious. "Victor." Victor finally shifted his gaze from the marriage certificates, cleared his throat, and said, "We are now legally married, so you can change how you address me." I hesitated, just about to speak. Beep, a license plate that was all too familiar. Nathan got out of the car and knocked on the window. "Oh, which wind has blown you, the young prince, here? I can't believe I can see you here." Victor scowled as he rolled down the car window, and Nathan's voice came through the window. In a moment of impulse, I threw myself into Victor's arms. Nathan looked at Victor with a teasing expression. "Ha, Victor is so lucky, his little girlfriend is so enthusiastic." Victor was taken aback, looking at me, who was sprawled in his arms like an ostrich. He gently stroked my head. When he looked at Nathan, he returned to his usual expressionless demeanor. "Let me introduce you, this is my wife, the kind that has already registered the marriage." Nathan was quite surprised. "When did you get married? How come I didn't know?" Without waiting for Victor to answer, Nathan smiled and said, "Today was supposed to be my wedding day with Celeste, but it got unexpectedly delayed, and now I still have to rush to apologize to Celeste." Victor let out a light scoff and patted my head, as if to comfort me. I leaned in Victor's embrace, feeling the warmth and strength of his hold, an unprecedented sense of security. Nathan's voice suddenly hesitated. "Victor, why does this Mrs. Victor look a bit familiar? Aren't you going to introduce her to me?" I hesitated, just about to lift my head. Nathan's phone suddenly rang. "What? Evie is awake? All right, I'll be right back." Nathan and Victor quickly exchanged greetings and then hurriedly left. I smiled foolishly. "See, it's not a big deal after all. Let's add each other on Facebook, wife." Victor pulled out a QR code and handed over his phone. My originally low spirits were completely shattered by Victor's address, and I hurriedly took out my phone from my bag, only to find that it had already run out of battery and shut down. "Sorry, Victor, my phone is dead." Victor was amused. "Why does that sound so much like an excuse to reject me? I just got my license, am I really about to be unemployed?" Victor turned his head to look at me. "I'm not joking, let's go, I'll take you to see the house." What are we looking at? A big question mark floated up in my mind. "Victor, forgive my boldness, now that the certificate is obtained, what exactly do you need me to do? Provide cover or something?" Victor fell silent for a moment, his ears slowly turning red. When he spoke again, it was filled with seriousness. "Celeste, I may be a bit hasty in saying this, but I don't want to hide it from you. I am actually very grateful that you called me at that moment. I also want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to pursue you in the name of marriage. Victor's straightforwardness caught me off guard. I wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. A successful, wealthy, and handsome man says he wants to pursue me. This man has just married me, and he can help solve all the problems I face. No matter how you look at it, this seems like the perfect ending to a Cinderella story. I thought about it for a while and finally spoke up. Victor, are you aware of my situation? After all, you helped me first, and I really can't be of any benefit to you. Victor smiled, his eyes seemingly filled with starlight. I know everything about you, perhaps even more than you can imagine. It's too late today, and this place is closer. Let's rest here for the night, and I'll take you to the old house tomorrow, okay? I silently followed Victor out of the car. Victor was meticulous and considerate. Everything in this house was even more thoughtful than I had at home. From the design to the layout, from skincare products to meals. Each item was extremely in line with my aesthetics and preferences. My phone finally charged, and a flood of messages and missed calls suddenly bombarded me. The phone rang abruptly, and after a moment of hesitation, I answered it. My dear daughter, when did you start seeing Victor? Why didn't you tell Dad? Ask Victor if the Cheng Group can invest in that project in the east of the city? Victor's expression was not good. He signaled me to put the phone on speaker. Richard, this is Victor. Celeste is tired and needs to rest. What do you want to discuss with me? There was a flattery in my father's voice that I had never heard before. All right, Victor. When you have time, come home for dinner with Celeste. The phone rang again, Nathan's name persistently flashing on the screen. I suddenly felt utterly exhausted. Victor turned off his phone, picked me up, and sat down on the sofa with me in his arms. Celeste, take a good rest, nothing is more important than your health. Sleep peacefully, I will stay with you the whole time. Victor's embrace was inexplicably warm, and he gently patted my back, causing my tears to flow uncontrollably. This sleep was exceptionally deep. When I woke up, I found myself still in Victor's arms. I gently moved. Victor seemed to still be in a dream, unconsciously patting me lightly again. I stared at Victor's sleeping face in a daze, and as I looked, I suddenly felt that he looked a bit familiar. Victor opened his eyes, saw me, leaned over and gave me a kiss. Good morning, wife. Then he closed his eyes again and continued to sleep. The movement was both quick and practiced. I was a bit taken aback. I heard Victor murmuring with his eyes closed, today's wife is so real, so cute, really nice to kiss. It's just strange, why are my arms so numb today? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Victor turned to look at me, suddenly a bit stiff. Good morning. Perhaps a night of deep sleep had restored me a lot. I looked into Victor's eyes and smiled, saying, good morning, darling. It was as if there were stars exploding in Victor's eyes, the smile at the corners of his mouth impossible to suppress, and his ears turned bright red. Celeste, our whole family likes you. The visit to the old house went surprisingly smoothly, and Victor's family was very warm towards me. Especially old Master Cheng, who smiled at me and said, this brat that even dogs dislike, Celeste, you mustn't hold it against him. This person, who could shake the entire city with his anger, was surprisingly amiable. The blatant disdain and arrogance Nathan's parents had towards me now felt like a distant memory. As we were about to leave the old house, Victor held my hand and we walked slowly in the garden. Nathan didn't know where he had heard the news, and rushed over, panting. Seeing the hands that Victor and I were holding, her eyes suddenly turned red. Celeste, Victor is already married, how can you be so unloving, willing to be his mistress rather than wait for me? Didn't I tell you before, I will definitely make it up to you for the wedding another day. Victor's gaze turned cold as he shielded me behind him. If you have a problem, come at me, bullying my wife is not what a man does. Nathan was stunned, looking up in disbelief. Your wife? What are you joking about? How could Celeste possibly be your wife? Celeste and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts, and she only wants to marry me. Nathan's eyes were even redder, seemingly with some bloodshot veins. Celeste, you tell Victor that we are getting married, right? Nathan looked at me with a pleading expression, wanting to hear me say that affirmative answer. I took a step forward and held Victor's hand. We are already registered. I, Celeste, am Victor's rightful, legally recognized wife, acknowledged by both families. Nathan's expression suddenly darkened. He seemed to be struck, and when he spoke, his voice was somewhat unsteady. So, you didn't cancel the wedding that day? You married Victor at the wedding venue I meticulously arranged? The figure I saw in Victor's car, was it really you? Celeste, how could you do this? Why would you treat me this way? Looking at Nathan's helplessness, I found it utterly ridiculous. Why do you think? Don't you know? The Cheng Group is on the brink of bankruptcy. I need a marriage alliance to stabilize the board, don't you realize that? If I can't marry you, my dad will send me to that old man in his 60s to secure investment, don't you know? The wedding is live-streamed, there's absolutely no possibility of postponement, don't you know? I laughed so hard that I ended up in tears. Victor looked at me with a pained expression, gently wiping away the tears from the corners of my eyes. Nathan, you know all of this, don't you? I've been pushed to the point of no return by you, and yet you still come to ask me why? If you had cared just a little, you would have known that I had already married Victor that day. Nathan's face turned pale, and he murmured, I thought what? Nathan felt a bit dazed. What was he doing at that time? It seemed like Evie had been in a car accident, and he was thinking that this was the last time. Having accompanied Evie in so many things, I have often overlooked Celeste's feelings. I should be able to repay the kindness the Su family has shown the Xiao family. After accompanying Evie through the surgery, I will go find Celeste to apologize and prepare for the wedding again. I must give Celeste the most grand and perfect wedding. Seeing Nathan lost in thought, I decided to make things clear. Nathan, on the day of the wedding, no one from the Xiao family will be present. Evie texted me the night before, she knew she would have an accident that day. It seems they all know that you and I are destined not to get married. I didn't care about Nathan's precarious situation. I took Victor's hand and left the old house. Victor, am I really that useless? Back home with Victor, my emotions got a bit out of control. My mother is seriously ill, and yet I can do nothing, watching helplessly as the mistress brings her illegitimate child into our home. The childhood friend I trusted betrayed me at the most critical moment. I worked hard and grew, only to be traded away by my father like a commodity. Victor gently wrapped his arms around me and held me close. Celeste, you have done very well. Good things come to those who wait, this saying is very fitting for Celeste right now. All the setbacks experienced in the past will ultimately become the embellishments and brilliance on Celeste. I have seen all the projects that Celeste has handled. With each project, Celeste has been growing, hasn't she? In order to break free from the shadow of the Cheng family business, Celeste has already undertaken many different explorations. Victor's tone was gentle yet powerful, as he held me and spoke for a long time. In his comfort, I gradually calmed down. Yes, the past cannot be reclaimed, there is no need to bring up the time that has already passed to trap oneself. Instead, one must be determined to continue moving forward. Victor keenly sensed the change in my emotions and looked seriously into my eyes. Celeste, I actually have my own selfish desires, I hope you can rely on me a little more. No matter what you want to do, remember that I am by your side. As soon as he finished speaking, Victor suddenly stood up, and I was a bit taken aback. After a while, Victor brought over a stack of documents and knelt on one knee. Celeste, I have imagined countless scenarios of proposing to you, but I never dared to hope that you would agree. Perhaps it is the favor of fate that has given me the opportunity to be your partner. This is a gift agreement for my assets. I voluntarily give all my assets to you unconditionally. Will you marry me? I opened the agreement, and just the list of assets was a thick stack. Victor's wealth was astonishing, and I was deeply moved, but I still closed the document and asked Victor, why? In Victor's narration, I slowly recalled the part of myself that was almost forgotten. When my mother was still alive, she was extremely anxious about me. Whenever I felt a little unwell, he would take me to the hospital. Once, I went into the wrong ward by myself. In the luxurious and spacious single room, there lay a delicate and pale young man on the bed. He was so good-looking that I couldn't help but steal a kiss while he was sleeping. More importantly, the young man's room was filled with all sorts of delicious food and fun things. Since then, I often insisted on going to the hospital, eating and playing together with the young man, watching the pale face of the young man slowly blush. We made a promise to each other that when we grow up, we would still play together. Until the year I turned 9, my mother suddenly fell ill and quickly deteriorated. My father soon found a new mother and brought home a younger brother who was about my age. No one accompanied me to the hospital to see the little brother anymore. I actually looked for you later. Victor hesitated as he spoke. But by then, you were already with Nathan. I regretted my missed opportunity, but I was also unwilling to give up, so I kept an eye on you. I suddenly felt a bit slow on the uptake. So, at that party, when I happened to save you from being drugged, was that also intentional on your part? Victor smiled. No, I never thought of disturbing you. Perhaps it is the favor of heaven that has given me another chance to approach you. I could hardly wait to promise you that I would agree to one condition, anything at all. At that time, I told myself that if you didn't use this condition, I would remain as I am and not disturb you, but if you did use this condition, then I would pursue you at all costs. I looked at Victor, who was gazing at me sincerely and intently, as if there were an invisible vortex in his dark eyes. Who could refuse such unreserved affection? I gently kissed his eyes. I am willing. However, in the latter half of the night, I paid a great price for these 3 words. Didn't I say I would keep myself pure? Didn't I say I would avoid women? All lies. All lies. My waist is about to break. My relationship with Victor has progressed by leaps and bounds. Until Lena cautiously asked me, Celeste, have you been in touch with Nathan lately? I was taken aback. I blocked and deleted him a long time ago. What's up? Lena sighed in relief. Nathan has been a bit off lately. After he met with me that day, he went back and fell seriously ill. He had a high fever for several days before it finally subsided, and Evie stayed by his side in the hospital. When Nathan finally woke up, the two of them ended up in a huge fight. Nathan accused Evie of having ill intentions, and Evie said Nathan was knowingly at fault. As a result, Nathan had a falling out with his parents, feeling that they had deceived him in the name of gratitude. According to Lena, Nathan has been reminiscing about our past on Instagram every day lately. At first, everyone advised him against it, but eventually, they stopped. He has trapped himself in the past. Ever since I married Victor, my dad's way of addressing me has upgraded from dead girl to precious daughter. He calls me every now and then, checking in on me as if he dotes on me endlessly. I never argue back, always quietly listening to his performance. I used to think that the Cheng group was like a big tree, with the path to avenging my mother filled with thorns. Now I realize that my former self was merely a frog at the bottom of a well. Victor found me teachers from various fields, and with his help, I absorbed knowledge like a sponge. One day, while I was feeling dizzy from dissecting a murder case, my dad suddenly called, "Darling daughter, I heard that Victor has his eye on that piece of land in the West District. Can you ask him if it's true?" I glanced at Victor, who was still looking at the documents. I think I heard him mention it. After I hung up the phone, Victor suddenly asked me unusually, "Wife, what do you think about the Cheng group?" Looking at his strange expression, I glared at him. "I want to handle this myself, so don't interfere." Victor nervously touched his nose. "Well, dear, if I say that I've already released the news, would you be angry?" "Not angry at all, you can just sleep in the guest room for a month." "I'm sorry, dear." Victor kissed me pitifully and, taking advantage of my distraction, carried me into the master bedroom. Sure enough, when the land in the West District was auctioned online, I saw the presence of the Cheng group. Cheng offered $2 billion, so I offered $2.5 billion. I kept pushing until Cheng's bottom line, $8.5 billion. I stopped bidding and let the land go to Cheng. Dad called me with unusual excitement. my precious daughter, your whispers by the pillow have worked wonders. The Cheng Group has never missed a beat in land development, and this time they surprisingly handed over the land to the Cheng Group, making everyone envious, ha ha ha. I smiled gently, as long as Dad is happy, that's all that matters. Victor was right. Family businesses like the Cheng Group rise and fall with the times. Back when Mom and Dad were just starting out, the core management seized the opportunity and made timely decisions that led to the rise of the Cheng Group. However, once the person in charge loses their mind, such a large cash flow can be fatal for the group. The next day, the headlines of the financial news were all about the Cheng Group acquiring the Land King in the western district of Jing City for $8.5 billion. I looked at the interview photos, seeing my father and his illegitimate son with proud smiles, watching them shine during the media interview. I asked Victor in great confusion, at his age, why does he still believe that pies will fall from the sky? Victor pretended to think for a moment, then looked at me seriously. Maybe it's because the pie my wife drew for him is big enough? Or maybe Richard is just greedy enough? I rolled my eyes at him and casually blocked my dad's number. When Lena called to wake me up, I was still dreaming about bankruptcy and asset liquidation. Lena sounded extremely anxious. Celeste, why are you still sleeping? Your scummy dad is spreading rumors about you everywhere. I opened the messages, and Lena had sent me several links. The content was mostly the same. My dear father sought out the media to cry out, saying that after raising me with great difficulty, I forgot my roots and turned ungrateful after getting married. I became infatuated with love and, in collusion with the Cheng family, openly defrauded the Cheng Group, causing the Cheng Group's massive investment to go to waste. The comments below are spectacular. The love-struck brain is truly terrifying. Is it worth betraying your own family for a man? People like this are the most disgusting. Is it fun to leech off others? Is this the Cheng Group that publicly live-streamed their wedding before? I have to say, the Cheng family's daughter is quite striking. The netizens are truly outstanding. These comments are more interesting than the last. I lay on the bed, engrossed in reading, and couldn't help but laugh when I saw a funny comment, shaking with laughter. Victor suddenly burst into the bedroom and hugged me tightly from behind. Huh? Didn't he go to the company? Victor, holding my hand, was surprisingly trembling. He gently took my phone. Don't cry, my wife, I'm already handling it. I couldn't suppress the smile at the corner of my mouth as I slowly turned around, looking innocently at the anxious Victor. If you don't seek trouble, you won't find it. I decided to return the favor in the same way. I contacted several important media outlets and reliable live streaming platforms to announce the live broadcast in advance. This matter attracted more attention than I had imagined. As soon as the live broadcast started, hundreds of thousands of people quickly flooded into the stream. I took out the evidence I had prepared in advance and displayed it to the viewers one by one. The first document is the birth certificate of me and that illegitimate younger brother. The illegitimate child was born just 2 months after me. The second document is my mother's medical records. There are many doubts surrounding my mother's illness and her passing. The third document is a record of all the projects I handled during my time at the Cheng Group. Everyone jokes that I am a workaholic for a reason. Several core sectors of the Cheng Group were built under my management. The fourth document details the specific situation of the land in the West District purchased by the Cheng Group. This land previously housed a laboratory, and due to experimental failures, the underground soil is highly contaminated, making it impossible for redevelopment. I also conveniently attached the promotional link for the residential project that the Cheng Group plans to develop on this land. When the first 3 pieces of evidence were revealed, netizens were still enjoying the gossip, thinking that it was a luxury scandal not to be missed. Some people started digging into the Cheng Group's illegitimate child. Some watched the drama while making jokes. This atmosphere continued until the 4th piece of evidence. After watching the 4th piece of evidence, the live stream room was practically about to explode. How could the Cheng Group dare to do such a morally reprehensible thing? That is severe pollution. How can it still be used for residential development? Heartless entrepreneurs, I will start the boycott of the Cheng Group. I exited the live stream. The evidence is sufficient, my dear father, your free time should be running out. Since you want to use public opinion to guide this, you must be prepared for the backlash of public opinion. The evidence I disclosed in the live stream caused a huge uproar. Companies that had partnerships with the Cheng family quickly announced the termination of their collaborations. The police intervened immediately to conduct an investigation. My father changed countless phones trying to reach me, and sought out numerous acquaintances to get in touch with me. I did not respond to him. Victor has protected me very well. At a charity gala, I was stopped by an unexpected person. Evie. Nathan and I had long lost contact. To be precise, I unilaterally severed all ties. Evie glanced at me and sneered, "Ha, you really are lucky." I looked at her in confusion, not understanding what she was trying to do. It seemed like she just needed someone to talk to, so she came to me. We walked to the balcony, but I heard another version of the story from her. She and Nathan had gotten their marriage certificate a long time ago. She loved Nathan even earlier than I did. Taking advantage of the Su family's favor towards the Xiao family, the old man stepped in to arrange her marriage with Nathan. Nathan has always been unwilling to go public, so she quietly cooperated with him. No matter how much I calculated, I never expected that Nathan truly had feelings for me. Nathan really wants to marry me, so he proposed a divorce to Evie. Evie was once devastated, and when she learned that Nathan and I were going to hold a wedding, she staged a car accident. I suddenly understood why every time I met Nathan's parents, their unmasked arrogance and disdain were so evident. I also suddenly understood why Nathan was willing to have a wedding with me, yet hesitated to get the marriage certificate. I always thought Evie was the third party standing between Nathan and me. I never expected that I was the one intruding into someone else's marriage. Nathan repeatedly professed his love for me, yet still turned me into the third party I despised the most without my knowledge. I suddenly miss Victor so much, the kind of longing where I can't wait to see him. As I walked out of the banquet hall, I called Victor. "Honey, come pick me up. Wasn't the party fun? But I miss you. I'll be there soon. I love you, honey. I love you too, my wife."